All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency Multifamily Committee. This is June 11th. Item A on the agenda is approval of the minutes from May 14. If the members have had a chance to look, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Item number 2, multifamily housing update. Ms. Richards will present.
Happy day. I will provide your multifamily committee update. So as always, we will start off with experience and capacity and work our way through our various programs, starting with 9% through 4% and onto our housing development gap financing. As of today, for 2026, OHFA has approved 148 entities for experience and capacity. So I was excited to see, as we were leading up to the competitive Ohio LIHTC, we didn't have a flood of these because folks have already been approved last year. So this is proving to be a great process. We only had, I believe, 9 additional entities come in the last month. So excited to see this process playing out in a positive way. You may remember last month was an exciting month where we awarded the 9% LIHTC for 2026. So this is just an overview of those projects that will be submitting an application in late summer. But you can see this is 17 cities and 17 counties were represented. We have a nice mix throughout the different regions there for a total of 1,468 units that will be either constructed or preserved. And then, as I mentioned, in September, those final applications will be submitted. For our 2026 4% only and affordable assisted living program, that is an open cycle that will remain open till the end of October. So far, we've had 12 projects that have been submitted, 4 that are just straight new construction, 5 that are affordable assisted living new construction, and 3 rehab. And then you can see there it's almost an even division between all of those 4 units for a total of 1,721 units. Monday was another exciting day where we accepted proposal applications for our 2027 Ohio LIHTC. So we will be posting all of those proposal summaries and final number of applications on Monday for all of our stakeholders that are excited to see those results. And then we'll present an overview for you all next week at board of what those numbers look like.
Can I ask you, will that Ohio LIHTC, is that included in the numbers you just showed with the 4%?
It is not.
So
Completely separate. These 1,721 units.
No Ohio LIHTC.
Correct. These are only 4% LIHTC, no other additional like Ohio LIHTC or bond gap financing. So then the Ohio LIHTC will be additional 4% LIHTCs as well as the state LIHTC. And then bond gap financing, we are just awaiting our allocations from Ohio Department of Development that we anticipate hopefully next week. And then we will be looking at putting out a first draft of our 2026 bond gap financing guidelines this summer. We're waiting to see what those allocations are, because if it was like last year, it's going to be enough to do 3 or 4 projects. And of course, these projects are triggering Build America, Buy America, which is their biggest hurdle right now. So we want to make sure we're putting those funds into projects that are set up for success and will be able to meet those requirements. And then our housing development gap financing, those projects were presented at board in April, and their final applications, there were 6, if you recall, that applied, and all were invited to move forward to a final application, and they'll be submitting those applications end of July.
My memory, that last group are the ones that are very small. They're small.
Yes, sir. You are correct. Those are 4 to 24 units. And they do not have any LIHTC in them. Those are just the gap financing. And then our design and architectural standards will have Jenny presenting on those in a minute, so I won't take her thunder. I'll let her tell you all that exciting news. No update from last month on our LIHTC pricing. So we're still at 84 cents. But as I shared with you last month, we thought this was interesting information that Novogradac put out, that they did some regional and state analysis, and the Midwest region is a median of 83 cents in the first quarter of 2026. So you can see Ohio in that Midwest region. But when we flip to state, the state median LIHTC equity pricing for Ohio is actually, we're ahead of pricing at 85 cents. So 2 cents. We all know that makes a big difference. And that concludes my update.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go on to item 3, guidelines. So,
I'm sitting over here.
I'm sorry. I was looking over here.
I felt less in the hot seat if I'm here at the table with you.
Sure.
So yes, I'm Jenny Cahill. I'm the Architecture and Construction Section Chief. I've been at OHFA a little more than 3 months, and I am really excited to present this first draft of our guidelines. And I just realized I don't have the mouse, so I was just
give me a nod and I'll
give you a nod when I'm ready for the next one. So our timeline for producing the 2027 DAS, in March, we went around the state. We had different meetings in the Northeast, the Northwest, the South in Cincinnati, and we met with developers and architects kind of across the state. And we went to where they were. We had some really impactful in-person meetings and received some really interesting feedback. And in April, we gathered that feedback. Oh, sorry, Barbara. April, we gathered that feedback and analyzed the comments we'd received and worked on drafting this first draft. And then May, we issued the first draft and started our 45-day public comment period. In September, we're going to be issuing the final draft and bringing that to the board for approval. And then January 1st, actually, I think now we are planning on December 1st, 2026, that will be effective. As we went around the state in March, a lot of what we heard from developers was a little surprising to us. Instead of just make less rules, people were telling us, because we're incentivizing cost containment, they really believe that the guidelines are a necessity. It's important to set the bar at a reasonable level. If the playing field isn't set at a reasonable level, the bad players are going to edge out good players, and we will end up with a race to the bottom. So they really stressed to us the importance of these guidelines. Developers, there are a lot of really good developers in our region. They want to provide good housing. They don't want to lose awards to the biggest cost cutters. But we can focus on creating guidelines that are going to be bumpers and not barriers. So I want to think of our guidelines as the bowling bumpers. They're down the edges of the lanes, and just to keep you in the lane. If your bowling strikes, if you're a really good bowler, you're never going to hit the bumpers. You're not even going to know they're there. They're not going to bother you. They're really just there for the bad players. You're going to keep them out of the gutters. Wow. So the good developers shouldn't struggle with our rules. They're already doing really good work. So how do we create rules that are just, keeping the bad players in line and keep OHFA from dealing with any gutter balls? Our top priority in reviewing the guidelines this year is to help reduce construction costs. We have a focus, of course, on creating more units of affordable housing. Rising construction costs has kind of been a theme for several years now, and so that's something that we wanted to address. Our baseline expectation, obviously all projects funded by OHFA have to meet the Ohio Building Code, and they have to meet the Ohio Energy Code. So we also focused on hey, if there's anything in our guidelines that's redundant to those, we try to peel that out just so we're not being redundant. And then anything that we're adding on top of that should really be, it should be something we're passionate about. It should be our mission. We came up with these 4 pillars of our mission at OHFA, and that would be for our design and construction. That'll be affordability, durability, quality of life, and accessibility. Affordability is just, if we're building a unit, but your utility costs are $500 a month, that's not affordable to the residents that we're targeting. So that would be things like insulation, having the right efficient HVAC equipment, water sense fixtures. Durability is a focus for us because we want to make sure that these buildings stay in good shape throughout the compliance period. Often these projects have low capital reserves, and so we want to make sure that what we're building is going to last for 30 years. And that's not necessarily something that the building code cares as much about, but it's very important to OHFA because of the way we fund our projects. The third pillar is quality of life. That might be something like radon testing requirements or indoor air quality, but also the quality of these buildings is going to affect the whole community around them. So a focus on the exterior of the building as well, right? You know, not installing the cheapest vinyl siding. We don't want this project to be an eyesore that is leading to more of a NIMBY attitude against our projects. The fourth pillar is accessibility. This is something that is very important to me, and it's something that the free market does not necessarily drive. So accessibility and accessible units cost more. I think that's something you can't really argue, but it doesn't necessarily lead to higher rents. In fact, people dealing with mobility issues often have less income. So I think that it's something that's important that we make an effort to provide because the free market is not going to do that. And then considering these pillars, also considering the value of the investment. So something might have a small impact on quality of life, but have a huge cost associated. So trying to balance that and make sure there's nothing in our guidelines that is, you know, an inordinate cost. So how did we build this? This is the cover sheet of our draft document. On the left is the 2027 design and architectural standards. And then we actually created a second document to take some of the construction process information out of the DAS. And so that's the document on the right is the DAPM, the Design and Architectural Process Manual. That's going to talk about your construction monitoring and how you submit changes to OHFA during construction. So talking about the first draft and what changes we made. First of all, we focused on simple, clear rules and no OHFA-isms. So I'm sure you guys have heard some things, some complaints about specific rules, but what we tried to look at was, is there something we're doing that is really restrictive and picky and it doesn't align with industry standards? One of those things was floor clean out location. We were requiring that to be off to the side of the corridor. And the problem is that if it's just something OHFA is requiring, it's not something that subcontractors are going to be used to doing. It's not something they're going to understand. They're going to do it wrong. They're going to submit a change order. They're going to get back charged for the work to fix it. And suddenly we're going to have subcontractors that don't want to work on our projects. So I think it's important that we are aligning a little bit more closely with industry standards. And also that'll help reduce costs. Other things that were possibly OHFA-isms, paperless chipboard instead of moisture-resistant chipboard, and some working to make the countertop materials and design less restrictive. Secondly, we created individual requirements for rehab and new construction. So if you look at the new DAS, there's a general section, and then there's a section on new construction requirements, and then there's a section on rehabs. Previously, we had a lot of requirements that were blanket applied to rehabs and new construction. And then if you had a rehab, you had to submit an exception request and say, this is why we can't do it. So now that process was kind of lengthy for us and also for developers to not know upfront if the exception request was going to be approved, kind of left them in limbo for several months during the review process. So this will give them more of a guideline like, okay, this just is not required for rehab. So I don't have to submit an exception request. And I already know that I can proceed with, ordering materials or submitting permit drawings. Yeah.
When I think about the rehab versus new construction, when you get in the rehab side, I can't do that. I don't have the money for that. How do you hit those barriers when somebody says, I want to rehab this building, but your standards have driven me to the point I can't rehab it because I can't do countertops or something? How do you handle the exceptions? New construction, there'd be fewer, but on the rehab, it seems like you'd have a million of them.
Yes. So that is what we're hoping to solve with this is if you look at the new construction list of design requirements, it might be this long, and the rehab list, it's shorter. So, and then we adjusted some of our standards. So if it says a 15-inch landing space for new construction, it might be a 9-inch landing space for rehabs. We're hoping that just setting the bar in different spots to begin with will mean less exception requests are needed. Thirdly, we are hoping to create a path for sustainability without a full certification. So for example, the way that the new DAS reads is if you're doing a rehab and previously we would say you have to pick one of these certifications, for example, Enterprise Green. Now the way that it's worded is you have to meet the standards of Enterprise Green, you have to have a HERS rater verify that, but you don't have to apply to Enterprise Green to get the certificate. So we're hoping that's a little bit of a cost savings. And we are also hoping during this first comment period that we can get some feedback on whether that's been helpful. For new construction, most of the feedback that we got in March was that the latest Ohio Energy Code is already enforcing a really high standard for energy, and that actually us adding an additional green certification was not really worth the value. Again, it's that balance. So we did remove that from our guidelines, although there are still individual funding requirements. So if, for example, if you have, I think it's home funds would be one of them, then you still have to follow their requirements for a green certification. Fourth, some of the feedback was that there was an Appendix A that was a bunch of design requirements. Specifically, this was our universal design appendix. And we were asked to integrate that into the body of the document so that it wasn't kind of an afterthought. And I feel that's appropriate too. I don't think that accessibility should be an afterthought for us. So we took a lot of those universal design requirements and integrated them into the body of the document. Although, like I said, rehabs are going to have less of those requirements. Fifth, talking about accessibility, some of the feedback that we got was a request for more flexibility. We know that all of our projects throughout the state are very different. So you might have an historic rehab in Over the Rhine, or you have new construction in the suburbs of Toledo, and you have different developers that have different residents and they know their residents best. So part of the request was for more options and more flexibility. So one thing that we did was the requirement for 10% 504 units. We're giving several different options now where you can make the second 5% flex units, or you can make them semi-ambulatory units. And then we attempted to define those a little better than they had been in the past so that, yes.
Does the federal government, when they give you the LIHTC allocation, do they set 504 requirements and ADA requirements and all that? Or is that left to the states?
So some of our projects that have funding that is directly from the federal government, so not LIHTC credits, but actual like I let Barb.
Section 8 would be one.
Yeah.
Well, Home National Housing Trust Fund.
They have their own.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are following that federal requirement.
So those projects are required because of the federal funding. They're required by law to have 5% of their units meet Section 504. And then at OHFA, what we do is we say, we just blanket apply that to all projects. And we say all projects have to have 5% of units meet Section 504. And then in addition, we want you to do a second 5% that could meet a slightly lighter standard. Semi-ambulatory would just be designed for crutches, canes, and walkers. Some of these building types, again, the buildings are all different. If you're doing townhomes, it's very hard to do a unit that fully meets Section 504. So trying to offer some flexibility and give developers options that help their residents. And this is another thing that we added was this table showing additional features for 504 units. So we had some of those universal design features like the 34-inch range that some people didn't like, some people did. So now those are options. So you can pick, for example, in column A, you pick one of those options. So if you don't want to do a 34-inch range, you could pick something else. And so the goal is that we want developers to be providing some additional accessibility features, but we do want to give them the flexibility on and we are also open. I think the note under this table says, we're open to suggestions. If you have something that you want to do that you think is increasing accessibility for your residents, tell us what that is, and we will add it to the table, or we'll approve an exception request. So just trying to add flexibility. The sixth thing, we do want to establish, this isn't necessarily part of the document, but we want to establish ongoing opportunities to explain the reasoning and explain the why behind the DAS. So I think my hope is that at the Ohio Housing Conference, and then several times throughout the year, that we're continuing to meet with our stakeholders and explain, okay, like this is why this rule is this way. This is why this is important. This is how you can meet this rule. And it's a two-way street. I think we want to be available to hear feedback as well. Lastly, this is another form of communication we're going to be setting up. We're going to create some kind of wiki site where developers can share their own suggestions and tips with OHFA moderating. And so this would be something like, I think previously you've probably seen a lot of suggestions from OHFA, and we heard some feedback that was maybe not well received when it comes in the form of a review comment. Is we want the review comments to just be like, this is wrong, this didn't follow the guidelines. We don't want to be sending you suggestions like add more kick plates. So this is really going to be a format for us to share suggestions, but also for developers to say, hey, I'm doing this really cool system where we installed this in every unit and it senses water leaks. And here's that product, and here's how much we're saving every year. So we want some kind of format where we can share that information without it seeming like it's an OHFA rule. So the first draft is out. Our next steps are this public comment period. Public comments are due Monday, June 29th. And on top of soliciting feedback from the public, obviously we're getting internal feedback. We're talking to our own compliance team and our finance team to get their feedback. They see a lot of different sides of these projects. And thirdly, attempting to do some resident outreach. Not every resident is going to be noticing that OHFA posted a DAS draft for public comment. So kind of getting out there and communicating with them and to get feedback on it as well. And then after the final draft, I want to address that, we're open to learning and adapting. So there will be future bulletins. I think in the past, we focused on maintaining consistency, and we want to do that as well. We don't want to be drastically changing the guidelines every year where developers can't keep up or predict what's coming. But at the same time, we do want to recognize that we need to adapt and learn. So if we issue something in the final draft in September and it's not working, let us know and we can make changes. We can issue bulletins. So that's my goal.
Okay. Any questions? I must say, you had me at gutter ball. I understood exactly where you were at. Been there, done that. So.
Yeah, I wanted to comment. You've clearly listened to your constituents. You've addressed so many of the trials and tribulations and issues, and it's exciting. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I would further add, having been a consumer myself of OHFA regulations and design standards, you're speaking to a lot of the things that I was concerned about as a developer, and happy to see this. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
So question, is this a draft that we are looking to approve and present to the board?
So the draft is open for public comment until June 29th,
Okay.
and then we'll assess those comments. Our goal is that we just knocked it out of the park and did a great job and can go to final draft. But we have time built in that if we got a lot of comments and we're like, oh, we need to adjust this and we want to get some more stakeholder feedback, we have time for a second draft if we need to. But the goal is to have it to OHFA board in September for final approval. So projects that start coming in for the 2027 program year can utilize those.
Okay. Well, thank you. Very well done. Any other questions or comments? All right. Projects for, and we are going to defer the multi-lending program.
Ken is going to present a multifamily lending program. We're He can explain why
I'm
we're at.
here in the hot seat.
All right, well, let me turn up the heat a little bit. All right, it's all yours, Ken. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Ken Bowen, and I'm the Multifamily Lending Program Manager here at OHFA. I've been here now 2 years and 1 day. I'm here this morning to inform you about proposed revisions to the MLP guidelines. We are not seeking approval today, but are advising you about the major changes proposed. A full red line copy of the guidelines should be completed on Monday and shared with you and posted for public comment. My understanding is that there is no legal requirement for a public comment period, but the changes are extensive enough that we would truly like to get some feedback from past and potential future users of the MLP before finalizing the changes. So we are proposing to accomplish some major tasks and make some incidental clarifications. The major tasks I wish to address with you are as follows. 1, remove unused or obsolete programs. 2, revise pricing to allow flexibility and to clarify how and when the interest rate is set. 3, provide incentive for borrowers to use HFA risk sharing. And 4, increase flexibility to allow the use of other sources of funds that have not been used before for MLP. Regarding the unused or obsolete programs, the choice loan category has been removed because it hasn't been used in over 5 years and only complicates the guidelines. Should OHFA wish to provide permanent mortgages to non-LIHTC properties in the future, in addition to what it does already in the Housing Development Gap Financing Program for smaller properties, that would be better done under a separate program with separate guidelines. As the MLP guidelines are generally structured around the concept that there is a LIHTC investor with strong incentive to monitor the project and ensure that it does not go into default. So the remaining 2 categories are new LIHTC MLP and existing LIHTC MLP. For the sake of continuity in the guidelines, we have preserved these category names, although it might be less confusing to simply call them forward commitments or immediate fundings. New LIHTC is for a development, whether new construction or substantial rehab, that is receiving a new allocation of 9% or 4% tax credits. These loans are committed pre-construction for a period of up to 30 months from board approval and are funded after completion and lease-up, replacing the construction loan in first mortgage position. Existing LIHTC is basically just a refinance of a permanent loan and is therefore a more immediate funding, typically within 3 months of board approval. While we have, to my knowledge, done only one refinance, the program should be available for refinancing our own loans, for helping troubled properties, and for filling a small loan niche that other lenders aren't interested in. Or revising pricing. Historically, there have been 3 problematic issues with the interest rates. 1, a lack of clarity within the program about when the rate is set. 2, lack of communication with borrowers about when the rate is set. And 3, no adjustment to the rate for the added cost of mortgage insurance in the risk share program. Regarding when the rate is set, the rate should simply be quoted as a spread over the Treasury that can result in a rate that fluctuates with the Treasury yield and can be firmed up well before the initial equity and construction closing and even up to 90 days before board approval. This is what borrowers expect because it is what other lenders do. Borrowers who wish to lock in the rate well before board approval can now do so with a payment of a non-refundable early rate lock fee. With these guidelines, it clarifies OHFA will lock the rate upon payment of the $7,000 application fee, up to 90 days prior to board approval. This will require discussion with the borrower after completion of the underwriting and confirmation that the rate works for the development. 3, when we started using HFA risk sharing, we never adjusted the spread over Treasury to make up for the 0.25% mortgage insurance premium. Effectively, borrowers were being penalized for agreeing to the additional requirements of that program, when they should be rewarded and incentivized. Therefore, we are proposing to clearly state that the interest rate will be 0.25% less for risk-sharing loans. See, the MIP is paid as a separate escrow and not included within the interest rate. The MLP guidelines should be market and mission-oriented to all interest rate environments. Our mission of assisting in the creation of more affordable housing dictates that we take advantage, to some extent, of the greater flexibility that we have compared to other lenders who need to match fund or to hedge their interest rate risk. But we also need to be market-oriented, because it is not our role to take market share away from the private lending sector when those lenders, primarily banks and agency lenders, are willing and able to provide terms that will work in the creation of a new affordable housing development. Therefore, we are proposing to quote pricing as a spread over the Treasury, as the market does. In situations where a development is on the verge of collapsing because the permanent interest rate is too high, if we have access to lower cost funds, we might be able to quote a lower interest rate by using those funds. In terms of incentivizing borrowers to use risk sharing, in addition to making the monthly cost close to equivalent for risk share and non-risk share loans, as mentioned above, we are proposing a 10 basis point reduction in the origination fee for risk share loans. Perhaps this will provide some incentive for those developers who have avoided the MLP program because of the environmental review and previous participation requirements, which add time and cost. Increasing flexibility. By not committing to a specific interest rate within the guidelines, OHFA is increasing the flexibility of the program in a way that makes it easier to incorporate other sources of funds beyond the RTCAP funds we have been using. We are in the process of implementing mortgage servicing software that will make it easy to remit a portion of the interest rate to an investor. The increased flexibility of the revised guidelines will also make it easier to handle defensive refinances in the most appropriate way. A defensive refinance means the refinancing of an OHFA loan that is maturing with a balloon payment and is not able to secure financing from another lender. Furthermore, for new LIHTC, the increased flexibility will increase the possibility of finding a way to make a development come to fruition that might have lost a funding source or encountered some other unexpected problem. Any questions, please?
I think you answered it right at the very end. These are TCAP funds that have returned to OHFA, and you're relending them out. That's the pool working from?
That's what we've been doing. And there is a limit to that.
Yeah, that's where I was headed. What's the pool of dollars that we could offer today? And do you know, are they coming back? Still coming back? The TCAP dollars are still coming back?
They're coming back through amortization payments, and if a loan is paid off, it's coming back too. And also the interest on those loans get thrown into the pool available for additional lending as well, as do the fees.
So what is that capacity in your judgment?
So that capacity now is, if I recall correctly, roughly 50 million.
So
but,
you're the niche. You're saying, I've got 50 million to put out there. I'd like to get it back working. And so, but your niche is small deals, ones that.
Generally speaking, we're proposing to maintain the $6 million per deal limit.
Okay.
Above that, I think the agencies should be available in general for most deals. And, we are trying to promote the FHA risk sharing because that would enable us ultimately with enough volume to sell bonds or somehow securitize the loans with the federal guarantee and replenish funds that way as well.
But again, even in risk sharing models, you're setting a $6 million cap, whether it's risk shared or not. You're not going above that number.
That's correct, unless we seek exception from the board from some deal-specific reason.
Any other questions? And this is presented for committee information. You're not looking for a,
Correct.
all right. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Item 4, projects for consideration.
Good morning, members of the committee. First, I'm presenting Albany Arms Apartments for approval of $1.75 million in housing development loan resources. Albany Arms Apartments involves the rehabilitation of 46 affordable housing units for families located in Albany, Athens County. This project participated in the 2025 competitive 9% LIHTC round and secured LIHTCs under the Preserved Affordability Pool, receiving the set aside for being a USDA rural development project. The project was originally built in 1977 as a USDA RD community and was acquired by the development team back in 2006 with 9% LIHTCs and USDA financing during the 2004 9% LIHTC round. So now coming in for a re-syndication. The project will be developed by Columbus-based Buckeye Community Hope Foundation, who will also serve as the supportive services provider. Waverly-based RKJ Fabrication and Construction LLC will serve as the general contractor, and Columbus-based RLJ Management Company will serve as the management company. Albany Arms is located on the north side of downtown Albany. The existing property is near Doug's Carryout and Grocery Store, Holzer at Albany Medical Clinic, First Friends Child Care Center, Wells Albany Public Library, and Woodcock Nature Preserve. The property will contain a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units, and these units will be restricted at 30%, 50%, and 60% AMI, utilizing the 40/60 rent and income set aside. Further, 22 of the 46 units will be subsidized with USDA RD rental subsidy. This rehabilitation will address outdated building systems, unit finishes, and site infrastructure, including but not limited to property-wide Wi-Fi at no cost to residents. Unit improvements include replacing kitchen appliances, cabinets, and countertops, new hard surface flooring, showers and surrounds, as well as entry and interior doors. This project will secure enterprise green communities, green standards upon completion. Therefore, staff recommends approval of $1.75 million in housing development loan resources for Albany Arms Apartments.
Are there any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Next, I am presenting Mission Point for approval of $2.5 million in housing development loan resources. Mission Point involves the new construction of 65 affordable housing units serving chronically homeless individuals and populations with special needs, including individuals with a mental health disorder in Toledo, Lucas County. This project competed in the 2025 9% low-income housing tax credit round and was awarded under the Service Enriched Housing Funding Pool. This project also received additional consideration for meeting the balance of state or small continuum of care COC set aside. This project will be co-developed by Toledo-based Lucas Housing Services Corporation and related Lucas Metropolitan Housing Authority. Mission Point will also be co-developed by Toledo-based Cherry Street Mission Ministries, who will also be the supportive services provider for the project. Additionally, Toledo-based Rudolph Lib Group will serve as the general contractor, and this project will be managed by Columbus-based Beacon 360 Management. Mission Point will be located in downtown Toledo and be in close proximity to Market on the Green Grocery Store, Nexus Healthcare, Nexus Pharmacy, Toledo Lucas Public Library, and Middle Grounds Metro Park. The property will contain all 1-bedroom units restricted to 30% and 60% AMI, utilizing the 40/60 rent income set aside. Further, all 65 units will have project-based vouchers provided by Lucas Metropolitan Housing Authority. And the project will include property-wide Wi-Fi for residents at no cost, as well as covered outdoor patio spaces, a community room, as well as a fitness room. Lastly, the project will meet Enterprise Green Community certification upon completion. Therefore, staff recommends approval of 2.5 million in housing development loan resources for Mission Point.
Thank you, Cody. I'd like to note that Mr. Farnsworth has recused himself from this vote. First of all, are there any questions?
I'll just ask one. It's unusual to see family housing or general occupancy with nothing but one bedrooms. Did they have a reason for that?
Yeah, so it's a service enriched housing
Oh, it is.
project. Yeah.
Never mind. Got it.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. May I please have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Thank you.
Right. The next project is being pulled from the list. That's Olympia Building. So we will move forward with the next project.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So NCJC Downtown Campus involves the new construction of 120 units to be, well, it's already located in downtown Columbus. This project competed in our 2022 bond gap financing program. So in 2023 January, the project was awarded 4.5 million in HDAP funds. And at that time, we identified those as National Housing Trust Fund and Ohio Housing Trust Fund. At some point over that next year, those project funds were changed internally, but our section chief that's in charge of environmental review was not notified. So therefore, the project received an Ohio Housing Trust Fund environmental review instead of a home Part 58 environmental review. So this was noticed when the project received their home funding agreement to execute at closing, and it was realized that the environmental review wasn't completed. So to fix this error, the OHFA team decided instead of giving that team the 2022 home funds, we pulled those back and gave them 2024 National Housing Trust Fund funds, even though we didn't have that agreement yet with development. So the project went ahead and closed in December of 24 with their 22 National Housing Trust Fund and a commitment letter from OHFA for their 24 National Housing Trust Fund. Well, 24 was the first year that triggered BABA. And so as we were working with the development team on BABA, we worked from May of 25 until February of 26 with this project team and worked through every possible waiver we could. Now, mind you, they closed in December of 24, so they went ahead and bought all their materials. They were under construction, just waiting on the next phase of funding from us. So it wasn't possible for them at this point to then adhere to BABA. So to correct this, OHFA staff is recommending that we pull back that 24 National Housing Trust Fund and use our TCAP funds for the project in the same amount. And so this isn't a change in funding level at all. It's just a source. And because it is our TCAP, we're bringing it to the board for your approval. So therefore, staff recommends.
Is this the very lending pool that Ken was just talking about?
It is the same source of funds, but it is being ran through our bond gap financing program. But those are, yes, still recycled tax credit program.
So in this case, it won't be a first mortgage. It'll be a.
You are correct. It's going
Down
to
the
be a
line.
cash flow loan. And I believe because we have the National Housing Trust Fund will be a deferred loan. And then the RTCAP will be a cash flow loan. So I think we're in third place.
I have a question on process. Do we need to have a motion to pull the original commitment back and then substitute it with this one? Or are we just going to forge ahead and approve this one? Tony?
Sorry, I was just going to say the original motion was only for HDAP funds. So it's still going to have the label of HDAP funds,
Okay.
but because they're RTCAP, we're just looking for your all approval since those are OHFA funds.
Okay. So no reversal needed on the.
Correct.
Are there any other questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries.
Is this
Thank you.
puppy open? Is this open? Anybody know?
Yes.
Still under construction. Okay.
All right. Good morning,
Good morning.
members of the committee, members of the public. My name is Ben Payton. I serve as the 4% tax credit section chief here at the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. The first project I am presenting on is 525 Sawyer Boulevard for approval of Ohio LIHTC in an amount of $10 million. 525 Sawyer Boulevard involves the construction of 380 studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units across 8 elevator service buildings located in Columbus, Franklin County. The project participated in the 2026 4% low-income housing tax credit with Ohio LIHTC round and was invited to submit a final application. The project will be developed by New York City-based Paths Development LLC. The co-developers will be Columbus-based S. Kane Development and Construction and Simco Corporate. The general contractor will be an S. Kane and Paths Construction joint venture, and New York City-based Paths Management Services will serve as the management company. This project is located in the Mount Vernon neighborhood in Columbus, approximately 2 miles northeast of downtown. The location is served by the Central Ohio Transit Authority, which operates numerous lines with service to downtown and other areas. A Kroger grocery store, medical and childcare facilities, a public library, pharmacies, and public parks are all within 1 mile. The property will contain a mix of studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments set at 60% AMI. One of the 2 bedroom units will be utilized as a manager's unit. The project will feature 7 garden-style apartment buildings arranged around a mid-rise building. Amenities will include a fitness room, playground areas, a gazebo and pavilion, and basketball courts to enhance residents' quality of life. The project will meet Enterprise Green Communities or EGC Plus certification. The project also includes 2 exception requests for your consideration. The first request is a debt service coverage ratio exception request. Staff underwrote the project to a DSCR of 1.15 instead of the OHFA minimum ratio of 1.2 in the first year due to the fact that the DSCR trends upwards over the 15 years. Staff recommends approval of this exception request. The second is a cost containment exception request. The cost on a per gross foot basis is $491, and the maximum amount is $430. The higher per foot amount is driven by the expensive demolition of the existing buildings and site footprint, which allows for an extensive amenities, including playgrounds, basketball courts, and fitness center. Staff recommends approval of this request. Therefore, staff recommends approval of an Ohio LIHTC award in an amount of $10 million.
Are there any questions?
As you were speaking to your exception request, you didn't mention this, but OHFA is not being asked to contribute more to cover that. It's got a city and a county investment of $35 million that would cover any overrun. So they're actually granting the exception more than we are by trying to finance this, and couldn't imagine a more impactful project for Columbus than this one.
Any other questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next, I'm presenting Sage Gardens for approval of an HDL in the amount of $2.5 million, HDAP financing in the amount of $4 million, Ohio LIHTC in the amount of $7,425,000, and final bond resolution in the principal amount not to exceed $8.8 million. Sage Gardens involves the construction of 55 1- and 2-bedroom units in a single 2-story elevator service building located in Pleasant Township, Georgetown, Brown County. The project participated in the 2026 4% low-income housing tax credit with Ohio LIHTC round and was invited to submit a final application. This project will be co-developed by Mansfield, Ohio-based Provident Management, Inc. and Westerville-based Platt Communities, LLC. The general contractor will be WODA Construction, Inc. of Columbus. Columbus-based WODA Management and Real Estate, LLC will serve as the management company. The project is located in Georgetown, Ohio, Brown County, roughly 44 miles southeast of Cincinnati. Public transit is primarily served by social service transportation providers, as fixed route city buses do not operate in this rural area. Georgetown IGA grocery store, medical care, Brown County Senior Center, CVS Pharmacy, and public parks are all within less than 2 miles. The property will contain a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and will utilize the average income of 60% AMI method, allowing units of 50, 60, and 70% AMI. Public amenities will include a community and laundry room, library craft room, outdoor picnic area, and a walking path. Upon completion, the project will achieve LEED Silver level or higher certification. Therefore, staff recommends approval of an HDL in the amount of $2.5 million, HDAP in the amount of $4 million, Ohio LIHTC in the amount of $7,425,000, and final bond resolution in the principal amount not to exceed $8.8 million for Sage Gardens.
Are there any questions? That's a pretty big ask. You got a tall stack of cash there. Are there any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Next, I am presenting Sandusky Senior Loss for approval of an HDL in the amount of $2.5 million, HDAP in the amount of $2 million, Ohio LIHTC in the amount of $12.5 million, and a final bond resolution in the principal amount not to exceed $24 million. Sandusky Senior Loss involves the construction of 117 1- and 2-bedroom units in one 5-story building located in Sandusky, Erie County. The project participated in the 2026 4% low-income housing tax credit with Ohio LIHTC round and was invited to submit a final application. This project will be developed by Westchester, Ohio-based Pivotal Development, LLC. The co-developer will be Dayton-based St. Mary Development Corporation. The general contractor will be Rossili Construction Company, LLC of Dublin, and Westchester, Ohio-based Pivotal Management, LLC will serve as the management company. The project is located in Sandusky, Erie County. Sandusky Transit operates 5 fixed routes throughout Sandusky, Perkins Township, and Huron Township. Kroger grocery store, a medical care facility, senior center, pharmacies, and public parks are all within a mile. The property will contain a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and will utilize the average income of 60% AMI method, allowing units at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80% AMI. Amenities will include community, fitness, and laundry rooms, community gardens, a walking path, secured entrances and security cameras, and benches at the elevators. This project will meet National Green Standard, Silver level certification or higher. Therefore, staff recommends approval of an HDL in the amount of $2.5 million, HDAP in the amount of $2 million, Ohio LIHTC in the amount of $12.5 million, and a final bond resolution in the principal amount not to exceed $24 million for Sandusky Senior Loss.
Thank you, Ben. Please note that Mr. Farnsell has recused himself from this vote. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve Sandusky Senior Lofts.
So moved.
Thank you. May I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Thank you.
All right. Next, I am presenting McGregor Landing for approval of a final bond resolution in an amount not to exceed $17,630,000. McGregor Landing involves the new construction of 115 units of affordable senior housing in a 1 4-story elevator service building located in Elyria, Lorain County. This project participated in the 2026 4% low-income housing tax credit with Ohio LIHTC round and was invited to submit a final application. This project received OHFA board approval in May for bond inducement, HDL, and Ohio LIHTC. This project will be co-developed by Cleveland-based CHN Housing Partners and the McGregor Foundation. Cleveland-based John G. Johnson Construction Company will serve as the general contractor. The McGregor Foundation will serve as the management company. This project is located in Elyria, approximately 23 miles southwest of Cleveland. Lorain County Transit provides public transportation primarily through their on-demand app-based micro transit service called Via LC. Giant Eagle Grocery Store, Lorain County Free Clinic, and a senior center, public library, and public parks are all within a few miles of the site. Directly adjacent to the site is the new McGregor PACE Clinic, which provides all-inclusive care for the elderly. Oh, sorry, should have clicked through that one. There we are. The property will contain all one-bedroom apartments set at 60% AMI. Amenities will include a community room with a full kitchen, wellness center, social service office, laundry room, outdoor covered patio, and walking path. Upon completion, the project will meet LEED residential silver level certification standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval of a final bond resolution in a principal amount not to exceed $17,630,000 for McGregor Landing.
Are there any questions?
I'll ask one here. I've not seen this often, but there's some payback here, but the general partner is putting in 6.7 million plus
Yeah.
an additional 3.7 of deferred developer fee. That's $10 million. Did they ever get that money back? What's the source of that? Capital.
That money is coming from the McGregor Foundation, who is a partner in the deal.
It doesn't have a payback that you can see?
Is Kimberly Hurd or Andrew Bailey on the phone with CHN? They might be able to speak to the payback of that.
It's incredible missional work. You don't see that very often.
Right.
It's not an important question. It's more of a curiosity.
I think McGregor owns the land also.
Maybe that's what it is. It's just, is that the value of the land contribution? That's too much for the land.
No.
Andrew, you can unmute and go ahead.
He fell asleep.
Oh, there you go. I can.
There we are.
Perfect. We can hear you, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. So the GP capital contribution is coming from the McGregor Foundation. Sorry. Do you guys have an echo when I'm speaking?
We can hear you. You sound great.
Okay, perfect. So the McGregor Foundation, this is the third project CHN has partnered with them on. And they have typically put capital into the project in order to get the housing built. The recontributed developer fee is actually just a developer fee that's going to be put back into the project.
To balance the sources and uses.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no, the foundation is looking at that 6.7 million as a true gift.
Correct. That is exactly it.
That's impressive.
Other questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Next, I am presenting Luther's Social Services of Central Ohio North Community Place and Village Place, or LSSNCVP, for approval of a bond inducement resolution in a principal amount not to exceed $10 million. This project involves the rehabilitation of 90 units in 2 buildings in Columbus, Franklin County. This project is seeking low-income housing tax credits in the 2026 4% LIHTC only open funding round. This inducement resolution communicates OHFA's non-binding intent to issue such bonds and is primarily used for the purpose of starting the 60-day clock for reimbursing pre-development costs with bond proceeds. This project will be developed by the Finch Group, doing business as TFG Housing Resources. Therefore, staff recommends approval of a bond inducement resolution in a principal amount not to exceed $10 million for LSSNCVP.
Are there any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries.
Good morning, committee members. I'm Dwayne McCroby, Director of Capital Markets here at OHFA. Today, I am presenting a supplemental resolution for Touchstone Field Place 2, which involves the new construction of 44 units in Columbus. In March 2024, the board approved bond resolution 2024-45, which authorized the issuance of up to $8.5 million in multifamily housing revenue bonds. Due to delays with the project, the bondholder and the borrower have agreed to a 90-day extension of the maturity date of the Series 2024A bonds and would like to amend the bond financing agreement to allow for this extension. The bonds will extend to no later than September 30th, 2026. As a result, staff is seeking your recommendation for bond approval of this supplemental resolution, authorizing continued issued bond amount of $6,707,451 for the Series 2024A bonds, but just now extending the maturity date for 90 days.
Are there any questions? So I do. So this building is up and operating. We're just asking for a.
Exactly. Yes, it's already constructed. It's already good to go.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, I will be presenting the reauthorizing resolution for the Hamilton Phase 3 project. This involves the rehabilitation of 160 rental units located in Hamilton, Butler County. The board approved bond resolution 2026-22 in September 2025 for an amount not to exceed $28 million, which will be expiring this month. The project had been delayed due to staffing cutbacks at HUD and also other title issues. Both have been resolved now, and closing is anticipated in late June or early July. So accordingly, staff is asking for the approval of this resolution, which reauthorizes the issuance of not to exceed $28 million for aggregate principal amount of multifamily housing revenue bonds for the Hamilton Phase 3 project for an additional 6 months with an option for a 3-month discretionary extension.
Are there any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to me. I'm going to present my last project here. So we've kind of saved the best for last. I'm going to run through the slides as normal, but then we're going to invite up one of the representatives from the development team to speak to a couple of the exception requests for the project, to give you all some additional information. So next up is the Woodhill Center North project for approval of $2 million in housing development loan resources. Woodhill Center North is the 4th phase of the Woodhill Homes redevelopment initiative, involving the new construction of 82 units in 5 2-story townhome buildings with 31 units and 1 4-story multifamily apartment building with 51 units in Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. This project is seeking 4% low-income housing tax credits through OHFA's 2026 4% low-income housing only open round. The project will be developed by Boston, Massachusetts-based The Community Builders, Inc. General contractor will be Willoughby, Ohio-based Maros Brothers Construction. Management company will be Boston, Massachusetts-based The Community Builders, Inc. And supportive services will be provided by The Community Builders. The project is located near downtown Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. Multiple grocery stores, pharmacies, medical facilities, public parks, and a recreation center are all located within 1 mile of Woodhill Center North. The Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority operates public transportation in the area, with 2 bus stops within half a mile of the location. The property will contain a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. Average income will be utilized on this project. Project amenities include a community room, bike racks, covered mailboxes, secured entrances and security cameras, patios, and walking paths. Upon completion, the project will meet LEED residential silver level certification standards. The project includes 2 exception requests, and to present on these requests, George Tabbitt, Senior Vice President of Development with Beacon, is here today.
Good morning, committee members. My name is George Tabbitt. I'm the Senior Vice President for the Great Lakes region of the Community Builders. Happy to talk about the project today. With me are Katie Jacobson and Tristan Scott from our partner, the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, in the project, and Ashley Schweikart, the Senior Project Manager for the project. So what I want to do is talk about the Woodhill Homes project in general, which is a very large redevelopment effort in the Cleveland community, because we're asking for a pretty significant exception request that will enable the 4th phase of this project to go forward. And so in order to help you understand why we're making this request, I want to set the stage by talking a little bit about the history of the project and its importance to the Cleveland community. They told me I couldn't do a sales pitch for the community builders. I'm going to skip over those slides.
George, how many units were originally on this site that were taken down?
So the Woodhill Homes was actually one of the very first public housing communities in the country. If you didn't know it, Cleveland or Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority was the first chartered housing authority in the United States. This was the first generation. It wasn't the very first public housing project they did, but it was the first generation. So imagine a 457 unit village, if you will, of public housing coming up during the Depression in the 1930s. It must have been really kind of amazing. That was unprecedented. Affordable housing for low-income families that was safe, decent, and affordable in a time when that just didn't happen. And the standard for housing at that time was indoor plumbing and good ventilation to prevent tuberculosis spread, right? So great at the time. Fast forward to the 2010s, and that's not really a good standard for housing. We have bathtub only bathrooms. We have ceilings that are under 8 feet. It's not a community that can be redeveloped. And so the city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority recognized something needed to be done. The city pulled together the matching resources, $45 million, to go after a HUD choice redevelopment grant, which would allow them to do effectively a RAD financing project for the entire community, and along with it bring in $45 million of HUD financing. So really a monumental undertaking. So the plan that was involved there, and you can see the broad community plan, 638 new housing units. So eliminate 457 old and obsolete, replace with 638 new that would include a mix of both market rate, mixed income, up to 80% AMI, and then still replace all of the public housing, some of the public housing being dispersed into the broad Cleveland community through tenant-based vouchers, but most of it remaining within the community. We also added 2 satellite sites so that as we did all this work, the concentration of units goes down and it becomes a more livable site. We invest in new roadway in the site, the original 30-acre property, so that we can re-knit it back into the community. It had been sort of this 30-acre inward-looking, set apart from the rest of the community thing unto itself. And what we're trying to do is actually re-knit it back into the community, connect back to the streetscape so that it becomes part of the broad neighborhood. Along the way, HUD provides us with money for economic development loans for business, housing repair funds for the neighbors. So it's not just about the Woodhill Homes, it's an uplifting of the entire Woodhill neighborhood. So I'm going to skip over this one in the interest of time. There's some pretty pictures of all the roadway work we're doing currently. $15 million of bond finance roadways on the original Woodhill campus. So before I talk about the exception request, let me just tell you a little bit about Woodhill Center North. It will be the first phase on the original campus. It involves 82 units across, as Ben pointed out. I guess you already did cover this, Ben. 5 buildings, 1 multifamily building. We currently have our 4% application in. I want to talk a little bit about the progress that we've made so far on the Woodhill plan overall. So this is the 4th phase. If we're able to receive approval today for this underwriting request and then close in the fall on phase 4, it will bring our investment to $200 million in the Woodhill effort. 350, almost 350 units complete with phase 4. So it gets us about halfway there. The city of Cleveland has been, and the community, the broad community have just been fantastic partners. They have invested already their $45 million with this phase is in the project now. So almost a quarter of the financing to get this far is from the local community. We're also thankful to OHFA. We've had 2 bond gap financing awards for $4.5 million. So definitely a big part of the track record there. So talk a little bit about the exception requests. We are at $735,000 a unit. That's a big number. But I want to talk about, there's 2 factors that go into that I think are the bulk of it that I want to zero in on. The first is we've done a creative solution to creating more resources by pulling in the roadway improvements that I alluded to, that $15 million investment by the city. $10 million can be associated with phase 4. And so it's in basis in this project. This is a well-trod path in other states. Our investor has done this before. We've done it in other communities we serve to pull that into basis, and it has the effect of generating additional equity. We've also then, with that in basis, gone for the maximum developer fee to pull another 4.8 million nearly into basis. All of that additional 4.8 million is recontributed back into the deal. So that's not earned developer fee. It's just a mechanism between those 2 things alone to create 14 million of basis and about 7 million more in tax credit equity to make the project feasible. If we took those 2 out, we would be at about $450 a square foot, but we'd have a $7 million gap and we wouldn't be able to advance this phase. Oh, you took out there was a slide about supportive. Oh, here we are. The other request is a little simpler. $750,000 of a capitalized resident services reserve. Basically, we are serving a very, about 50% or more of the units will be Section 8 replacement units for Woodhill legacy residents coming back to the community. It's a fragile population. They've experienced a lot of housing insecurity and been through a lot of change over the last several years as they left campus and then coming back. So we want to make sure we're able to meet those residents with all of the supports that they'll need to succeed in their next endeavors, and also to position the property well. What we know from our experience is that when we make these investments, the property will do well and the residents will do well. So there, that was it. Thanks for sitting through it. Should I stay up for questions or?
Are there any questions?
I'll poke a couple, George, here. The $10 million that first off, there's an incredible amount of money coming from the Choice Neighborhoods program. Is that coming in the form of a loan, a soft loan, an equity contribution? What is the choice number? What How's that ever get paid back or does it?
So normally, the choice funds go in as soft financing, just like a city home loan or another form of HUD financing. In this case, HUD did make the decision because they really want to see the project go forward to set aside their underwriting requirements. We would be normally limited to 9 million. We've got 13 million here. That was what we needed to make all of this feasible. And it stays in a soft, cash flow only debt.
So if you say your request is 60 million, which looks like double what we would typically see, right? So that means there's a 30 million that is financing that's unusual, and you've got 13 coming from CMHA or the choice program and 10 million more coming from an infrastructure loan. So that's 23 million of the gap that you're not asking us to fund. You found it.
And another 3 million, 3.7 from the city for their, it's a home loan from the city. So really 26 million from between HUD and the city.
But there is land available when you're done. You're going to be doing more housing on this site. So we're really financing a 30-acre park ready for more affordable housing, of which 82 is ripe and we're funding today, right?
Yes, and I just want to make sure it's understood that the 10 million really is roadway that is associated with the project we're discussing today.
It'd get you there.
Yeah.
I assume it has frontage and other things could come off of that frontage, that road, or is that road dedicated specifically?
That's the roadway. The entire project is 15 million of city bond and 3 million of congressional earmark. So 18 million total for the roadway. 10 is the portion attributable to this phase. We can't pull that other 8 million in. It wouldn't be allowable.
And the other question I have, it says PBRA. Is this the housing authorities vouchers and they've project based them for you, or did it actually come from, but the old fashioned project base where you're the compliance source?
These are through the housing authority. So it's they're the original housing rental assistance from the Woodhill Homes community to begin with.
This took some brains, dude. This is hard work.
It's an important project.
Hard work.
On the slide here, you can see, I will take my gigantic pink pointer and point out the roadway that they're talking about that was not, correct me if I'm wrong, George, this road was not previously there. It was just amongst, so now they're making this so you can travel from one side of the property to the other even and connect it into the neighborhood.
Part of the history of the project was that roadway sits on a hillside, so it's an expensive road to build to start with. But the uphill was originally white, and the downhill was originally black folks, and so it was a segregated campus. And so part of the vision for the redevelopment is to truly just wipe that history out so that we're connecting the two, and that just goes away completely, that entire perception.
Quick question just from my end. I appreciate just kind of following on Mark's comments. Obviously, an impressive amount of partnership and activity, advancing this forward. Beyond the approval you're seeking today and kind of the pipeline of activity coming into the future, do you still have a broader set of approvals you're going to continue to need to get along the way from other funding sources to build that out, or is that still kind of in the works?
We know we have the infrastructure work, in fact, is underway. It's being completed as we speak. The HUD approval, the city approvals are all in place. This is for this phase, the last stop. For future phases, we're still looking for resources, but for this phase, this is the last stop.
I would just comment that in the executive summary, what you're asking for, a total development per square foot and the total development gross square foot is way off the meter for us. And so it raises a lot of eyebrows. I don't know if that could have been presented or couched a little differently, but it's hard to argue against the loan versus all of the other investment that's coming in. I mean, it's a small piece. We're a small piece of the pie.
It's like you're investing in the local community who's made the bet.
Yeah.
They're doing all the hard work and all the risk taking and all that. So it's very, I think about Sawyer Gardens and I look at this one, I think that's two communities that have won big time because of what we're doing here.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Oh, yeah, moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Any other business to come before the committee? I would like to make a comment. I participated in a groundbreaking for Fountain Creek Villas in Bryan, Ohio yesterday. Thank you to the OHFA staff for providing me some comments. Participated in the groundbreaking, well-attended event, very significant for that community. Thank you to the OHFA staff for helping to make that happen. It's going to be a big impact in that community. And with that,
We'd invite all our board members who have an interest in coming out to groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. You are certainly welcome, whether you make remarks or not. We would love to have you attend. So putting in a pitch for that, Mr. Chairman.
all right. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good work, you guys.